Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so glad that you decided to press play or that you decided to show up and see what we were doing. Okay, today is President's Day. You know that, right? Maybe you have the day off, maybe you don't. But what I want to talk about is how sometimes some dead people can inspire you. That's bad, isn't it? No, seriously, throughout my life, from growing up on welfare in a violently abusive, drug-infested home, pregnant out of wedlock at 17, homeless at 21, and already in my first failed marriage, resume was not looking good, to a millionaire at 23. No, not because I remarried somebody, but because I worked hard. Because I started a business from the trunk of my car in a payphone booth and made my first million inside of 2 years by the time I was 23. Today, I'm a multimillionaire. I've had tons of financial failures between 23 and today. And as a multimillionaire today, which runs two organizations, between these two organizations, we help people to succeed wildly in the marketplace. I don't take a salary from the business. The profits are distributed between the IRS, the staff, and then, of course, planning for the future, and taking the rest of it goes straight to the poor, including, of course, my salary. The check is signed over to freeing children from the sex trade, putting in water for people for life who have none, being able to feed orphans and taking care of widows, as well as building houses for the extreme poor. So that's exactly what we do here at DaniJohnson.com. But today, I want to put a focus on the best success book that's ever been written and a place where you're going to be able to draw great wisdom. Have you ever been in that place where you've kind of gripped onto something that you maybe should let go of? Have you ever been in that place in your life where, you are passionate about something, you're really driven about something, whether it's driven about paying off your debt, you're driven about having a better marriage, you're driven about some business idea, concept, or some dream or some travel goal, you're driven about it, and that sometimes maybe you could get a little too intense? I know I do. Absolutely. In fact, my husband has had to talk with me from time to time about that very thing, that when I just get a little too intense, a little too focused and passionate about what? Freeing kids out of the sex trade, or seeing you become completely financially free, you building wealth, you building generational wealth. Well, friend, the place where I have learned the majority of everything that I've learned about creating wealth and about family, how to solve problems in a marriage, even your sex life, it's all from the best success book ever written. And that book is not my book. And it's not the books that are on your shelf that you've bought from Amazon or from the bookstore. That book is actually the Bible. That book, the Bible, if you take all the religiosity junk all off of it, you find wow, crazy drama. You find wealth tips, not only wealth twists, but a wealth formula, how to come out of poverty and how to create wealth. You learn how to raise your kids. You learn how to grow a business. You learn how to go through some major famine times and how to turn those famine times into flourishing times. You learn how to solve political problems that are at your office or in your home. Seriously, every communication problem that you're having right now from all the people that you think it's all their fault, the answers are in this book. It's really, really amazing. And so I have been super inspired by dead people. I know, it's gross, isn't it? But it's true. So inspired by dead people. Here's one thing I know. The dead person can't let me down. So I find safety in studying dead people. I know, it's kind of twisted. But the fact is, we're going to study a dead person right now. No. Well, yes. Okay, so I'm actually looking to the book of Romans, all right, which is kind of 3/4 of the way done with the whole book of the Bible. And it's Romans chapter 1, verse 10. And there's something in here that is so powerful that it I don't know, have you ever read something where it halts you? This halted me. Okay. And again, here it is on President's Day, a day that we look at leadership, a day that we look at some of our past presidents and leaders of our nations. Let's go beyond that. What about prime ministers? There's been some great prime ministers in the world. There's been great chiefs of tribes. There's been great kings and not so great kings and not so great chiefs and not so great prime ministers and not so great presidents, right? We all have our list of who we thought was great, who we thought was not so great. But today being a day that it's kind of we kind of look to the past leadership that we've had to see, there's something in Romans chapter 1 that I think is really, really profound and really beautiful, especially for today being President's Day. So in Romans chapter 1, verse 10, here's what we see. Paul actually is praying specifically for a door to open to him. And depending on which version of the Bible that you're reading from, when I first started reading the Bible, I started reading from the NIV, New International Version, because I had like an 8th grade reading level. And That's still even too hard for me. But anyway, so I went for the New American Standard, and then now I am in between two places where it's all more from the Hebrew text, like Hebrew to English versus skipping a few other languages. And so I'm reading this from the Aramaic translation, and it's from Netzari Press. It's really powerful. It's Aramaic to English, and I've learned so much deeper than when I was reading it from the Greek to English. Not that I read Greek, but I'm saying the English version I had that came from the Greek versus the Aramaic. And so here in Romans 1:10, it says this, is that Paul, it shows that Paul is saying he's praying for a door to open for him by the good pleasure of Elohim. Elohim is the term for God in Hebrew and in Aramaic. So again, this just completely halted me. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. Because when you're focused on a dream, you're focused on a vision, like for example, for us, DannyJohnson.com, we do live training seminars, right? People come from all over the world, like what will be happening in just a few days in Houston, Texas, right? So we have people coming from all over the world that are gathering for 3 solid days of intensive training for their finances, learning how to go from broke to creating wealth, to go from a stalemate in your career that's driving you crazy to flourishing and growing and prospering in it, and or a business that's kind of been in a rut, or the business is running your life and driving you crazy. You're hitting your head up against the wall. You're sitting in a ton of confusion. Things are just not simple anymore. Things are just too hard and too difficult, and the employees are driving you nuts. Okay, First Steps to Success in Houston, Texas this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. You're going to learn how to solve those problems that keep you up at night, that causing you to sweat, that causing you to snap at your spouse, causing you to snap at your kids, right? And you're also going to learn at the same time how to fix some of those relationships that either have become dry or hostile or dead. So whichever one that your relationship is in, or it's like plugging along real good, you want to take it to a better place, to a hotter place, to a more fulfilling place, that's what you're going to learn how to do this weekend at First Steps to Success. So as a one who's driven, like for myself, our vision is to impact 100 million lives by 2035. That's our big, hairy, audacious goal. That is the thing that we are working towards. And last year alone, we impacted 6,377,093 lives. That's how many people we impacted, of which 2,182,000 lives were changed. What do I mean by changed? They were changed with, they had no water that was good, like it was dirty, filthy, out of a ditch and killing their children. Now they have a clean well, right? So we helped millions of people get clean water, or food for orphans, or food for the widow, or we brought in medical supplies and other supplies that were needed, or freed 1,500 kids out of the sex trade. It was 1,502 to be exact. And we built 523 homes for the extreme homeless. I'm talking people that live in plastic, not people who live in a homeless shelter. They live in plastic. There is no homeless shelter. So anyway, so that's 2,182,000 lives we changed last year from the proceeds of First Step Success and the community that is around First Step. So all these clients that come together, we changed that many people's lives, and we impacted through our messaging, through books, whatever, over 6 million lives last year. So that's what's taking place this weekend. And so when we are driven and like 100 million lives by 2035, that's a crazy goal, right? Like is that even possible to do inside of 20 years when we set the goal back in 2016? We will find out. We will find out, absolutely. But when you have a heading like that, and you have something that you're focused on, whatever it is, right? You know what you're focused on. You know what your New Year's resolutions were. You know what it is that you're working towards, right? But sometimes we can get so intense on it that we kind of forget that there are things working in the background and behind and beyond and on our behalf that could be helping us get to where we need to go faster than us pushing harder. And I've got to do these gut checks now and again. And that's when I read this passage in Romans chapter 1, verse 10, where I see that he says he is praying for a door to open to him by the good pleasure of Elohim. Okay, here's another version And this one is called From Scriptures, and it's called the Institute of Scripture Research. And it says, always asking in my prayers, if at all possible, I shall be by the desire of Elohim to come to you. Okay, so it's a little bit of a different translation. Basically means the same thing, right? So let's say it again. So always asking in my prayers, if at all possible, that I shall be blessed by the desire of God, by the desire of Elohim. So right away, this is what I wrote down in my journal. I'm like, oh, that is so good. That is so good. You're like, Danny, why is it so good? Because, friend, when we are pushing so hard and with so much intensity and so much devotion, we sometimes can get our priorities a little bit out of whack, and we can actually start trying to become God ourselves, with trying to push things to happen in our timeline, our way. And when we do that, there is a ripple effect that happens around us, right? That when we become too intense, maybe our husband or our wife might feel like they are second fiddle now. And now there starts to be outbursts happening in the background in the marriage. That when we become too intense and too focused on something, that maybe the kids start to feel like, wow, mom or dad doesn't really care that much about me right now. They seem to be a bit too much focused on some other things right now. Okay, it could be that even, you're pushing too hard with your staff or your distributors or your customers, and they can feel that pressure coming on them. And now they are like, oh, there's anxiety in them. Now there's the fear about making a mistake. And maybe there is like, oh, crap, is everything okay? Do you understand? So what we do and how we approach something has an impact on everyone around us. And when the drive is just driving us versus us directing the driving, now it's like our sleep is robbed with, I got these plans, I got to do this, I got to do this. And like you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're making a list on the side of your bed of what you got to get done. You wake up running. Everything's in a hurry. I remember doing that even with my kids when my kids were little. Man, and I got so convicted when I'm like, come on, hurry up, we got to go. And I was like, I am like teaching these guys to be rushing everywhere. I'm teaching the very fibers of their DNA, the very fibers of their poor body. I am imparting into their mind and in the programming of their mind. I'm like, come on. I'm teaching them there's not enough time. No, what the reality was is that I didn't properly plan. I didn't set aside enough time to give some grace so that I was considering, all of these little ones that I had, which I have 5 total kids and now 8 grandkids, that I wasn't looking at, hold on a second, this is like a little too much pressure. Pressure doesn't pull out the best performance out of people. Oh, there's a specific personality that says, oh, I work great under pressure. This right here, this passage, I think is so powerful. It's Paul, right? Paul, who is like a major history figure in the religious world, especially in the Catholic world and in the Christian world. I mean, he's like a major figure. He wrote majority of the Second Testament of the Bible. And here he is saying, in all humility, that in my prayers, I'm asking that a door will be opened up to me of God, and that it would bring good pleasure to him. That whatever would bring good pleasure to him, that's the door he opens for me. Think about that. That is saying, I am not trying to control God. I'm not trying to control my spouse. I'm not trying to control my kids. I'm not trying to control my business. I'm not trying to control the people I work with. This is saying, I am praying that whatever brings good pleasure to God, that's the door he opens for me. And that if it brings good pleasure to him for me to come and see you, this is what he wrote, that he'd open a door for me to come and see you. So he has this deep desire to go and see a people that he had trained before, a people that he'd spent some time with, a people that he ate with, a people that he laughed with, joked with, maybe played games with, maybe had intense conversations with, maybe had some intense arguments and fights with, but there was some kind of camaraderie there. There was some kind of friendship there, and he longed to be with them. And in that longing, it was like a desperation. I really want to be with you. I know you've had that longing for somebody before, okay? And in that longing, then he's saying, want to be where it brings good pleasure to God. Every time I say it, it's like a testing. How often do we pray that? How often do we pray that? God, if it brings you good pleasure. So here's what I started to write in my journal right when I saw this. And I thought, oh my gosh. First of all, that is such a wise thing to pray. It's such a wise position because it positions us in humility, and humility always wins. Humility is who he exalts. Those who are humble, he exalts, but the proud, he tears down. And do you know that the proud doesn't know when they're proud? You realize that, right? That when you're walking in pride, you don't know that you are. When you're an arrogant pig, you don't know that you are. Everyone around you know that you are. Everyone but you. It's our blind spot. That when we're walking in arrogance and pride, we can't see it. But he tears down the proud. He tears down the proud through what? They will be fired. They will be shelved. They will lose an income. Yeah. They might have a health issue that will come upon them. I mean, when you look throughout this best success book ever written, you'll see all the different ways that what he does to the proud, how he takes them down, how he exalts the humble, and he tears down the proud. There's various different ways. Some of them he just like takes them out. It's like, expired, dead. Okay. Others might have a heart attack. Others might have people that come against them. And there are others who are humble that also have people come against them. So if you have people coming against you, doesn't always mean that you're in pride. But I'm simply just saying that if you humble yourself with this prayer, for example, right, of like, whew, okay, I have this desire, but only if it brings good pleasure to my Father in heaven do I actually want it. And I only want the door that you will open for me if the door brings good pleasure to you. First of all, that is a stress reliever. Do you know that when you walk in humility, you're positioned to win? And you're positioned to win because, number one, you've taken the pressure off yourself. You see, pride and arrogance says, I have to cover my sin, says I have to cover my own backside, says that I have to make sure everything is perfect. I have to make sure that everybody else is perfect. I have to make sure the kids are perfect. My wife is perfect. My husband is perfect. I have to make sure that the business is perfect. I have to make sure that we're all perfect. To make sure my finances are perfect. Or I have to make at least everything look like it's perfect, which is what majority of the people on the planet are doing. They're trying to make everything look perfect. Just look at Facebook and Instagram. People put their best foot forward. They want everyone to see them in some better light than what the reality is of who they are. So watch. This is what I journaled. This was crazy. I just said, I want this desire and I want this focus. This is so humble. If it brings good pleasure to you, Father, then let us impact 100 million lives by 2035. Let us change millions of lives through our materials and the money that we give. Let us raise up a people, thousands and tens of thousands of people, that their lives will be dramatically changed and transformed forever. Okay? Souls that will now come into freedom. And that's really what I'm talking to you about right now, right? So whatever it is that you're driving for, whatever it is that you're working towards, whatever that goal is, just insert this before you start thinking about that. Father, if it brings you good pleasure, then please open a door for us to fill in the blank. Please open a door for me and give me grace to lose weight. Father, if it brings you good pleasure, go to your New Year's resolutions. Look at the list. Now bring that list before him and say, Father, if it brings you good pleasure, if it pleases you, would you please make a way for me to lose weight? Will you please make a way for me to get fit and healthy? If it brings you good pleasure, listen, this is why we're on the earth, is to bring him good pleasure. But boy, do we live in a society that's all about our own personal pleasure. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't want you to not have pleasure. Sorry. I'm not saying that he doesn't want you to have pleasure. But I promise you that if you line up your pleasure with his good pleasure, this is where fulfillment lives. This is where great gratitude lives. This is where blessing lives. This is where you have happening to your life exceedingly abundantly more than anything you could ever ask for, hope for, or even imagine. That's what ends up happening. Do you understand? So bring all those goals right back to your New Year's resolutions. Okay, Father, if it brings you good pleasure for us to be out of debt, please teach us how to get out of debt. Show us the program that we should be using. Okay, I'm going to say to you right now, if you're wanting to be completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years, here's a messenger for you. Go to Houston, Texas. I don't care how much it takes to get there. I don't care if you're flying from Australia or London or South Africa. Get on a plane immediately, and I promise you, you will have a plan in your very hands. And it'll be so simple that your 9-year-old will say, done deal, and your 9-year-old will hold you accountable. And you will be completely debt-free in 5 to 7 years. In addition to that, you're going to learn how to create wealth while you are becoming completely debt-free. It's one thing to pay off debt, but it's a whole nother thing to be completely financially secure, completely financially independent, knowing what to do with your money, how to make it grow for you. Okay, and if on your list it's like, okay, Father, if it brings you good pleasure, you know it brings a good pleasure for you to be a better spouse. But maybe you lack the skills to be a better spouse. Where are you going to get the skills to become a better spouse? Well, you're certainly not going to get it from who you've learned from already, because who you've learned from already has produced what you got, right? So if you want to have to be and to know, man, I'm nailing this thing, and you're seeing the fruit in your relationship, that your marriage is now your most fulfilled relationship on the planet, because you're doing it from a strategic place. You're doing it skillfully, something that no one ever taught you how to do. You learn how to be a married person by osmosis through your parents. And if your parents showed you all of their marriage, which you didn't. You didn't see what happened behind closed doors, if anything at all, or if something was happening. And they certainly didn't talk about it, right? So where have you learned it from? By osmosis, from television. Okay, well, look, most people's marriages end in failure. 1 out of 2 is going to fail, and the reality is 75% of the marriages should fail. They are failing. They're hugging the side of the bed instead of each other. They're finding other things to fill their time instead of with each other, right? Why? Because they're bored, or it's, okay, it's all right. Gosh, disgusting. So this weekend in Houston, Texas, you're going to get the beginning skill sets and the beginning steps. You're going to find exactly what's been blocking that beautiful blessing coming into your life. It's not because you married the wrong person. It's because you're using the wrong skills, and you can get new, powerful skills. In fact, first thing Friday morning, the first 3 hours alone, you're going to say Friday morning on February 22nd, like, this was worth the entire registration to get here. This was worth $1,500 actually to get here, which is over double the registration, right? That's what you will say. That if your marriage changes and that it becomes fulfilling and life-giving, that if your finances become fulfilling and life-giving, if the thing that causes you stress is flipped over on the other side and now it is a thing that actually gives you great blessing and fulfillment, whether that's a business or working with your sales force or something with your church, your spouse, your kids, imagine the greatest thing that is blocking you from having the rip-roaring success that you and I know that God has planned for you, and you're able to discover the skills that have been hiding from you all these years, and now you uncover it, now you apply it, and now you get the results that our clients are getting. Like we get stories every day from our clients who went from failure to great success. You don't believe me? Go to our website. In fact, click on events. Get registered right now for First Steps to Success. First Steps to Success, Houston, Texas, February 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Don't use your excuses of, I don't have the money, I don't know if my spouse will let me. No, come on. How long are you going to stay in the cycle of excuses? That's like a rat in a wheel, okay? How long are you to stay trapped in that mindset? How long are you to stay trapped by your finances? How long are you to be trapped by your marriage? How long are you to be trapped with the kids? How long are you to be trapped by what you don't know and what you don't understand about building wealth? How long do you want to be trapped in business? How long do you want to be trapped in your career? How long do you want to be trapped with your weight? How long do you want to be trapped in your health problems? How long do you want to be trapped? That's completely up to you. But if you're saying, I'm done being trapped, then I'm going to see you February 22nd through the 24th in Houston, Texas. Again, there's people flying from all over the world. You can fly from the United States of America, friend, on Hello, this is President's Day. So, as I promised you in the beginning, we're looking towards the past. Presidents, prime ministers, kings, chiefs, okay? There's been good and bad of all of those things. And here is one man that led a movement that is still happening today. Still to this day, this movement is happening. And here's one beautiful, fresh piece of content where we see humility in action and we say, okay, I'm going to lay it down. Okay, I'm going to lay it down. I'm telling you, when you're here this weekend, you're going to have a 1,000 pounds of burden lifted off of your chest. You're going to find the path that's going to bring you what you've been desiring so you can stop pushing, forcing, and trying to make things happen. But you're going to learn the key ways of how this broke, homeless cocktail waitress who grew up in a violently abusive home, who now is a millionaire and giving millions away to helping to take care of the poor and helping millions of people to succeed wildly. So that's it for me for today. God bless you. Please share today's video. Somebody else needs to hear today's message. So basically all of it, take a chill pill, right? Ask him, if it brings you good pleasure, open this door before me. If it brings you good pleasure for me to be in First Steps to Success in Houston, Texas, open the door for me. And you start heading and knocking on the doors, friend, and I'm going to see your face bright and early, 9 a.m., February 26th.